Today's episode is brought to you by the Whole Life Decluttering Workshop, featuring a proprietary 6-step system, the Simple System, to help you declutter your life in a way that will last. Purchase this workshop on demand and receive the video training and dedicated workbook at positivelyproductive.com/resources. I believe in energy management over time management. Yes, we want to manage what we do with our time, but the way we do that is through prioritizing and managing ourselves, particularly our energy. The more we pay attention to our energy, what lifts our spirits, gets us going, nourishes us, and the opposite, helps us recover and recharge, the better we can select what to do and when to do it. You're listening to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zaratny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a productivity coach certified in positive psychology and stress management. Join me as we explore ways to live a more proactive, positive life with episodes on productivity, self-awareness, mindset, entrepreneur life, habits and systems, simplicity, fun, and more. I understand overwhelm personally as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and as a caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and it's my mission to help you manage overwhelm and find shame-free, sustainable solutions. One of the ways I do that is by helping you manage your tasks, which some consider task management and some consider time management. I have thoughts on both and will be sharing advice and concepts to consider to help you approach time and tasks in a way that's right for you. Today's topic came directly from questions I've been asked by listeners, in groups, and in presentations. The focus is time and task management, so if that's something you're challenged with, you'll want to keep listening. And if you find value in this episode, I'd be grateful if you'd review the podcast on Apple or rate it on Spotify, and share it with others on social media so they can find it too. Let's get into the questions. Question 1. What are your time management tips? Here's my answer. Okay, this is quite the open-ended question, and I understand why you asked it. The fact is, time management is a key concept and a popular phrase for those who are trying to make the most of their time, to be productive. It's a challenge to answer this question, though, when there are no specific examples and I don't know the person asking. But why don't we go through the basic concepts that will set you up for the right choices? First, I believe in energy management over time management. Yes, we want to manage what we do with our time, but the way we do that is through prioritizing and managing ourselves, particularly our energy. The more we pay attention to our energy, what lifts our spirits, gets us going, nourishes us, and the opposite, helps us recover and recharge, the better we can select what to do and when to do it. A huge part of this is knowing your strengths, personality, your values. We all have different thresholds and needs. What drains you might energize me. What drains you might be because it's not what you value. There are so many nuances to this, which is why I coach it. But knowing yourself can help you make intentional choices so you can do the right tasks and do them at the right time. Second, I believe we need to not only be very clear on what we do with our time, we need to limit what we do as much as possible. What I mean is we need to declutter all aspects of our lives, including our task lists, so that we don't waste this precious and limited commodity of time. Ask yourself, is everything you're trying to do imperative, mandatory, valuable? Be ruthless in protecting what matters to you and do the things that will move you toward your goals and honor what you value. Create boundaries that keep in what matters and keep out what would derail you. Third, I recommend creating multiple lists as you process and track what you need to do. And I say multiple because there needs to be a difference between capturing all you need to do and the actual to do lists you use for the day and week. Yes, you need to get ideas out of your head. I highly encourage that. But when you write out all the things on your mind, do not make this your to do list. Think of it as your to choose list. It's a first step of decluttering your mind and getting clear on what needs to be done. And it will be way too unruly and overwhelming to be a functional to do list. It will actually sabotage your efforts. I recommend processing that as your to choose list and going through it, adding to it, and then taking from it so you can place it where it belongs, whether that's in a calendar or somewhere in the future to review again. The key here is that this collection is where you're going to take from in order to create your to do lists for the day or the week. Lastly, once you have your to do list in place, which is really more of your must do list, then you can apply productivity techniques that can help you move through them faster. This is the time management techniques that we think of, but you'll notice this isn't where we started, right? There's a lot of prep work you need to do before in order to set you up to be more productive. Suggested techniques include things like batching and scheduling. For example, I recommend using theme days as a way to very simply structure your week. You can fill in with time blocks of appointments and projects depending upon what needs to get done and when, and keep the when connected to when it's best for you to take that kind of action if you're able to do that. And for everything you schedule, be sure to create a buffer to protect against delays and, as importantly, allow for transition time between tasks and allow for time for you. You're a human, not a robot. Don't schedule your calendar like you don't have the need for breaks and transition. And I promise you, once you do get to the thing you need to do, you're going to do it so much better. When you are ready to work, have the tools you need to get the work done and use timers and sprints to help you focus and find your flow. And again, all of these tidbits are classic time management techniques, but they are only as good as the choices you've made ahead of time. And that is where priming your productivity comes into play. Some resources to help you with this topic include the Guided MindSweep Package. It's a free collection of a workbook and a guided audio to help you sweep your mind in 5 minutes. You can request it on the resources page of the positivelyproductive.com website or go directly to positivelyproductive.com/sweep. You may also want to check out podcast episodes about tackling your to-do list and themes for time management. Okay, on to our next question. Hi, I listened to your episode, 3 Simple Steps to Organize Your Life, and had a question. How do you avoid being overwhelmed with learning and using new systems? I keep trying different things, but then it's just one more thing on my to do list and I get overwhelmed. Any advice? Thanks. Here's my answer. First of all, thank you for listening and asking this question. The idea of using simple systems means that these systems definitely don't have to be complex in order to work for you. But in fairness, a new system is technically more to do because you're learning and it takes more brain energy and even potential steps based on what you were used to doing before. While there's nothing wrong with that inherently, it can be difficult, especially when you were already overwhelmed. Sometimes it may be the price of priming your productivity, and you have to be able to push through that in order to get to a better place. You're front loading the work. But it can also be a problem when you keep changing and trying new things, and then it's a waste of your energy. You're taking time and energy for each new learning curve, yet maybe not giving it enough time to lock in. It's a bit like the problem with task switching, which we call multitasking, which has been debunked. We lose focus, time, and energy each time we switch tasks. So you need to be very intentional and very careful about how much you're switching and whether it's worth that energy loss. When you keep trying new systems but giving up quickly, you're using the energy without getting the chance to reap the results that the system could offer. My advice is to avoid the constant switching and the waste that happens as a result, and to focus on the process first. Ask yourself, what is the most basic version of the system that could work for you? When we start using a new app or platform, it's easy to get caught up in the bells and whistles because they're the bright, shiny objects of this organizing solution. You see the possibilities, and those who would encourage you, especially if they're trying to sell it to you, want you to see the ultimate potential. But it's too much too soon, and it's how you burn out fast. Keep it very scaled down so you get used to the habit, process, and platform. You need to dip your toe into a new software pool before diving in headfirst. Here are the steps I would recommend with some examples. Step one, lay out the process first, which means figuring out what you're trying to track and how the information and ideas come to you. And this could be done with a notebook, mind mapping, or writing out ideas on a whiteboard or in a rocket book. The key is to pick the easiest way and sketch out the framework and steps. And it's likely the hardest part. It's the one that we will skip over anything else. We want to start setting up the new system and figure out how we're color coding it and do all the fancy stuff. But what we really need to know is, what's the information? How is it coming in and out? How are we tracking it? What is it that we need to get out of this system that's going to make our lives better? Step two, now think about what platforms you like and what kind of user interface calls to you. Now we're going to match up the process you need with a platform that makes sense to you. So Asana is one example, and full transparency, and I've said this before, when I first looked at it, I ran the other direction, like sprinted. And honestly, I still give it a wide berth because despite the fact that my good friend Kristen Latini of the Build Your Own Fairy Tale podcast loves it so much that I had her on as a guest on this podcast to tell us why and how to make it work for us. Despite the fact that she loves it so much, it's not for me. I do highly recommend it for some people and businesses, especially those tracking teams, and especially for those with product production. Asana works really well for that. Now, for my solopreneur coaching operation, I didn't prefer it because it didn't feel like a space that matched my brain and what I needed to achieve in my business. Conversely, Trello does. From the minute I opened up Trello, it made sense to me. I like the visuals and the simplicity of moving cards back and forth and being able to link things. I'm a Kanban gal, and that's what those cards are. That's the style of organizing. I should note that ClickUp has this view as well, and there are going to be many types of software that have different types of views to make it easier for users and maybe more appealing for different users to use their software instead. So ClickUp definitely has the Kanban view, but for me, I didn't choose that because I felt like it had too much horsepower for what I needed. I have very simple systems and I work with teams through outsourcing as opposed to internally. And so I feel like ClickUp is another example of a system that works really well for internal teams. Now, it's ideal for my amazing podcast management crew at Galati Media for all the nested workflows that have to happen to make this episode and all the others come to life. So we use it to keep track of the Positively Living podcast, and I use it in collaboration with them. But for my own business tasks, the dashboard for my business and all the things that I do, and even for my clients, I've stuck with Trello and I maximize Todoist, which is a task management software for everything else in order to keep track of what I need to do. And it works great. Step three, once you pick a platform, choose one thing to track instead of everything. I know you may need to get to everything, but here's where you really need to start small. See, this is where the bells and whistles and the potential for complexity can and will trip you up. Just as you do with habits, you need to start small and simply. What do you need it for the most? Do you need to track clients, to-dos, capture information so that it's in a safe space? One client I worked with used Evernote to collect information for a book, and a colleague I know used Notion for the same purpose. She was able to keep the text and visuals together, which were really important for her. Now, a client I'm working with to help her focus on her writing uses ClickUp because it's a familiar platform she loves and uses in her business as well. And another client I have uses Evernote for open client files, in part because he loves the interface. I used to use it, but again, I prefer Trello, so that's the one I went to. Figure out something that you're struggling to organize and use a platform that feels right to you to do only that. That's your starting point, and that is going to make all the difference. I promise. You can change it and you can grow with it and add to it as you get used to it, but start small, and that will keep you going. Okay, some examples from my life, and this made all the difference for me, and it's how I learned that this was a key way to do this. Back when I first tried Evernote, I began by collecting recipes in it. Yeah, it actually had nothing to do with what I wanted to use it for in business. I just did something super simple. For the first year, a whole year that I used the platform, I collected links and directions for some of my favorite Instant Pot meals. Random, I know, although it was very helpful. So message me if you want a foolproof way to hard boil eggs. It's a game changer. So I've been using my Instant Pot for years, and that was so helpful. And I ended up transferring all those recipes to Trello because that is the platform that I prefer. But it was a great way for me to get used to Evernote. Now with Trello, how I got started with that was with a coach who knew how to use it, and we collaborated on one board. So I worked with her using one board, and it's how I got used to the feel of the platform and knew very quickly that it was the one that I liked. And now I use it for a business dashboard, for my social media, for features, for my own guesting on other podcasts, all of these different things I use Trello for, and it works so well. Now, I'm currently using ClickUp, as I mentioned, with my podcast production team. And so that's great, again, for collaborative purposes, but I'm keeping it simple with one board in ClickUp. And I can use it for collaborative purposes, but I'm not going to seek it out for anything else. Let's see. And just keep in mind that it's okay to try out things this way. And as a matter of fact, if you can collaborate with someone else, even on a simple information exchange, it can be a great way to learn without so much effort. And also, you'll have someone that you can ask questions. Now, if any of these systems are of specific interest to you and you'd like to learn more, you can actually find a tech tools playlist on the podcast page of the positivelyproductive.com website. The list includes episodes on ClickUp with Layla Pomper, Airtable with Melissa Guller, Trello with Taylor Mobley, and Asana with Kristen Latini. That's all for today's Ask Lisa segment. And if you like this Q&A style episode, you can find others by searching for episode titles with Ask Lisa in brackets. You'll find others on handling overwhelm and organizing notes so far, but I do plan to do more. Of course, as with everything, that's up to you. If this is something you like, let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback. And I encourage you to message me if you have questions or thoughts, whether it's about this episode. I love follow-up questions. They're always welcome. Or if it's about something different. I'm delighted to address the topics that matter to you. Also, I do respond personally to messages, but sharing here helps because I know these questions are universal. If you do ask me a question and I use it here, don't worry, I will keep it anonymous unless you want me to mention you. I hope these questions remind you that we're all in the same boat and that there are simple, sustainable, shame-free solutions ready when you are. Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback or questions, you can find me through the Connect page of the positivelyproductive.com website. And if you're looking for any of the resources mentioned here, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.